All right, so our next section is to create a new route. All right, so TBEST Route Editor Overview. TBEST provides editing tools to manage network updates for existing and future year conditions. The editor allows you to review and edit GTFS network import results, add new routes or modify existing routes, add and modify route patterns, digitize route pattern segment alignments and stop locations, define operational attributes for at the stop level and at the route level, define route vehicle trip departure times and in-vehicle times using the TBEST trip editor. So several components and facets of the route editor. You have the actual alignment editing, you have stop editing, you have segment editing, and you have trip editing. So we're going to go over all of those. All right, so we've kind of covered some of the operational data. So cost, fare, route type, capacity. So let's dig into some of this route structure. All right, so the TBEST route panel provides tools to manage transit routes within a network scenarios. That includes activating a route pattern for editing the properties of a route, accessing the service summary, the trip editor, the service editor, accessing ridership summaries and operation settings. What we want to focus on here is the, let's close that. What we want to focus on is the routes toolbar. So this route network coding tools. So creating and deleting routes, creating and deleting route patterns, copying routes and patterns, copy pattern to the reverse direction. So if you do digitize a route and you add stops to it, and you add service to it, so this particular tool makes it very easy to flip it and turn the service in the other direction so that you don't actually have to code the opposite direction. It can be just automatically coded for you. Now, this option isn't as precise as actually doing it manually, coding it manually. So, and sometimes it's not the actual reverse direction. Your route may take a different path. So this this could be of service to you, but and not in all cases. You also have the option to auto-generate stops. So if you don't know the stop locations on a particular route that you might be coding, that's a brand new route that doesn't have any stops on it, or that are already in the network, then you can auto-generate the stops at a certain increment. Okay. All right, so other route options, you can add new routes, you can import routes from scenarios. So if you have routes that are in other scenarios, such as another TDP plan, you have several different scenarios with different TDP alternatives, you want to move routes in between them. This is a great way to just move routes in between scenarios. You can do stop editing on an active route pattern. There is a route selection render width. So when you're rendering your routes and you're selecting them, this option allows you to change the width of the selected routes so that it bolds them out and makes them come out a little more. You can also set the route label to not just the stop name, but the description. This is kind of handy, the switch selection, which if those of you who are GIS experts will know that it's pretty easy to switch selection in ArcGIS Pro and going back and various ArcGIS versions in the past. So we have that here as well. And of course, export routes out to GeoDatabase or ArcGIS Online. So definitely different tools here to help you code and visualize your routes as you're developing them. All right, so creating a new route, you basically have a route type, which we've already looked at the route types and their definitions. So you would just define from a pick list which one you would want. Same with technology. The route description you would add and the route name would be your own. And then the directional description, you can enter northbound, southbound, eastbound, westbound for bi-directional routes. If it is a circulator route, then it would just really be like circulator or some other name that wouldn't necessarily be a directional description. You also would define a route color. So it'll provide a default color, but of course you can define a specific color for that route. when you do create it in TBest Explorer, it will create the new route. So if we have, it's called new route downtown to Sherman Oaks. This northbound pattern would be here. So it automatically creates an empty northbound and an empty southbound pattern when you create a route. Now, it could be eastbound, westbound, depending on what you would select here, or circulator, but it will create the default patterns that would, then you can start working with those patterns to develop the route alignments. Okay, again, we mentioned the BRT characteristics because whenever you do right-click on, you're actually editing and creating this BRT route. If you right-click on it in the routes panel, select it and right-click on it, you will receive this BRT adjustments option. So that is how you access the BRT characteristics definition. So this only pops up if it's a BRT route, and that's how you get to the BRT route characteristics definitions, right? So we've talked about this already, and won't go into too much detail here, but this is really how you access it, is through this BRT adjustments menu. Okay, so again, you can set your individual route operation settings. So if you do have new routes that you want to set to colors or cost, or add or remove route pattern prefixes, you can do all that using your operation settings as well. So some additional tools that are interesting and are kind of less likely to be used but are available to you. The first one is this import alignment toolbar. So if you do have a GIS file of alignments, let's say, that you've developed outside of TBest, you can add that layer in, the GIS layer in, as a user layer. And then you can use this toolbar to select the segments that you want to define a particular route pattern, and then use the import alignment button to bring those alignments in and define the pattern. So you can use this tool, and this is kind of, it is helpful if you have a lot of these. But if you're developing your routes from scratch using the TBest tools, like the shortest path tool in TBest, just makes it kind of easier. So while this was in the past, maybe this was pretty quick to do, the network coding tools in TBest make it pretty easy to just digitize your alignment inside of TBest without using external files. So either way is okay, but you can use one or the other. The other is this route realignment tool. And what this does is, let's say that you have a realignment of a segment, that you have multiple routes traversing that same segment. And you have, let's say, 10, 15, 20 different patterns that you want this same realignment to merge into those same patterns. So using this route realignment tool, you can push an alignment that you make, realignment that you make on one pattern to all those patterns that traverse that same area. So, so while we don't use this all the time, it's certainly very valuable and hugely time-saving if you do have that situation come up where you're making a change to service or alignments, and you can push that realignment onto multiple patterns. The next one is this route update stop socioeconomic attributes. And we had talked about this to override the model calculated values to better represent known population employment accessing a stop. And that known could also be expected, right? So we mentioned the Amazon facility, that it's not there right now, but it will be in 2 years, and our forecast year is 2 years out. So we want to make sure that we're representing that so we can override those default stop level population and employment values to better represent what will be there on the ground. And then you can also create time points just by and split segments by using this create time points at selected stops that's on the stops panel, where you would select the stops where you want to create time points, and TBest will split the segments at those locations, and then you can better define the exact in-vehicle times on those segments.